There's so many new cards! Hey everybody, today is June 20th, so we'll be looking at June 29th. That wouldn't be right. June 19th, MTG stocks. And we can kind of see here that there are quite a few price increases yet again. There looks to be some reserve list cards that are going up, and there are also quite a few big increases, like there's a 900% and a almost 600%, but there's quite a few things going on here. The one that we'll be getting into today is Bottomless Pit. As you can see, pretty big increase. So let's go ahead and look at this card here. Bottomless Pit went from 54 cents to 573. It is a one colorless black enchantment, and at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player discards a card at random. So as you can imagine, it's going to be good for any kind of black discard deck. And I'm kind of surprised this card wasn't like too popular prior, but I guess there isn't like a ton of discard decks. And I guess the other thing I could think of is that I feel like commander wise, I don't know so much about other formats because I mean that's going to be more competitive anyways, but in commander formats generally, I feel like discard decks are something that people do not appreciate, maybe is a word. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, good. I have no cards in my hand, and I have to really, really hope I can top deck something and deal with said threat or deal with said card that's making me do nothing. So I feel like that's one of the bad things about a discard deck. Is like I like the idea sort of, but I would probably not play one just because I can imagine it's very annoying to play against. But, you know, as I've said before, depends on your group, and if your group doesn't care, then this is probably a pretty decent card. Now, I feel like, and I could be wrong, but this is probably a reason why this card increased. If there is another reason, let me know, but from what I kind of saw, is that there is a new Jumpstart card. And this is a probably your commander. It could be in a 99, but commander-wise, it seems pretty good. So you have this card called Tinybones Trinket Thief. He is a one colorless black legendary creature skeleton rogue, and he's a 1/2. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent discarded a card this turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. And then you can pay 4 black. Each opponent with no cards in hand lose 10 life. As you can imagine, this is pretty strong. It feels like it, especially for black. You know, there's a lot of ways to make people discard cards. You know, the other benefit here is that when people get a card disadvantage, you're getting a card advantage. And it says whenever an opponent discarded a card and at the beginning of each end step. So that's the thing, is that since it says each end step, super powerful. And I guess the only thing here is that it says an opponent. So in the sense of even if everybody discarded a card, like you made 3 people discard a card, you'd only get to draw 1 card. So you still only get to draw 1 card. But if you consider that you can make people discard a card every turn, then you're getting to draw 3 cards, not in your turn, for free, and you make people discard a card, and thus why Bottomless Pit is so good, because it is allowing that. So even though you do get a slight downside of you do have to discard a card on your upkeep, with Tinybones, you're still netting, I guess you're technically netting 2 cards, because you get to draw 3, and then you have to discard 1 with it. But since you can get to an easier state to each opponent not have cards in their hands, then you're making them lose 4 life for 6. Super good. So I mean, at least if that's not why Bottomless Pit went up, I'd be semi-surprised. But yeah, Tinybones, super cool card. Probably won't build it only because it seems like it could be very annoying for people. But I really like that card. He's adorable looking. It's just like a funny theme in general. Like the artwork, it looks kind of like, I don't know. It's funny to me. I like it. But I never play it. Shame. What a shame. I don't think you can really do like competitive. You'd have to get into a game where everybody's like, okay, I'm going to play this annoying deck. Be prepared. Or you have to, bring it up front. Be like, yeah, I'm going to be playing this annoying deck. So be prepared, but I really like it. It's like, you'd have to kind of like, at least in more casual groups, I'd say. So anyways, neat card. Let's go and go to the next card of the night, which is our commander. So, talking about Jumpstart, I wanted to look at a new Jumpstart Commander card, which is Kels Fight Fixer. This is a 2 colorless black legendary creature, Azra Warlock. I don't know how many Azras there are. I want to assume none, but I could be wrong. I don't know how many Warlocks there are either. Both are kind of weird, but it's fine. Let's go to the other text here. It's a 4/3 Menace, which, Menace not bad. As a commander, that gives you a little bit more chance to poke people and potentially get commander damage out. I don't think that's the main point here. The kind of main theme of this is that whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may pay Dimir. So this is actually a Dimir commander since there is a Dimir cost in there. And Dimir is blue or black, I should say. And then it says, if you do, draw a card. So, all right. It's not the best thing, is you still have to pay mana. So that's probably like the downside. It's probably, it's kind of like, okay, I wish it was free, but can't have everything, I guess. And then the other ability here is that you can pay 1, sacrifice a creature, and then she gains indestructible until end of turn. So it's kind of neat in a couple of ways. So, of course, the problem with Dimir here is that you're not going to have a ton of mana ramp. Of course, you can put a bunch of, signets or whatever you want. But the thing to think here is that, all right, she has a sacrifice outlet on her, so you can get off her ability to draw a card. And then, but she also gains indestructible. So the good thing about that is that, you want her to be out on your field because you want to make sure you're getting card advantage with her. And she also a sacrifice outlet. That gives you a lot of good ways to do this, especially in a sacrifice Dimir deck. So you just have to be cautious about the mana. So I'm not going to say this commander is going to be the best commander because of those reasons of mana, but I still think it's very cool, and I feel like there's a lot of cool things you can do with this. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the synergy cards here. I'm just going to note that I think it's interesting to see Dimir sacrifice decks. I don't see that a lot, so I can appreciate this in that kind of sense. So we're going to look at some Dimir sacrifice cards that can potentially help this, or something that's cool, like, because I see a lot of like sacrifice decks as being maybe Jund, or at least for me, Jund. Maybe not everybody else, but I see Jund doing pretty well with that. So I want to emphasize more on the Dimir aspect. So our first synergy card here is from the new Core 2021 set, which is Obsessive Stitcher, which is a 1 colorless blue-black creature human wizard that's a 0/3. You can tap her, draw a card, and discard a card. Or draw a card, and then you have to discard a card. Then it also has 2 colorless blue-black, tap, sacrifice, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this gives you a little bit of reanimation. And I feel like reanimation and aristocrats, or I call them sacrifice decks, but aristocrats / reanimation pair pretty well. And so with Obsessive Stitcher, she gives you a lot of benefits of getting to draw a card, discard a card. That allows you to put big creatures in your graveyard. So if you do want to reanimate, you can do it that way. And you don't have to do it through some other methods. But at least she has that on there. And the other thing here is that since you get a sacrifice her, you can use Kel's ability, and that allows you to draw a card for additional mana. Mind you, that's 5 mana in total because of Obsessive Stitcher's ability costing 4. But if you put in a really big card in your graveyard, get it out, and you pay a mana for drawing a card, overall seems pretty good. So this is kind of like one of the Dimir cards that you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. You get a sacrifice effect that's specifically Dimir only, or I guess, if you're doing other colors that include Dimir, there you go. But it's kind of nice to have something that complements that. The next synergy card I'm going to talk about, and I wanted to put this in 2 separate sections because I just thought this card was super, super cool. And I haven't really seen it before, and it's, at the time, not very expensive. So this card is called Vile Consumption. This is a 1 colorless blue-black enchantment. This is from the Invasion block, so it's pretty old. What it does is, all creatures have, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature unless you pay 1 life. Okay. This seems kind of weird, right? It's like, does this really help? And what I think when I see this card is, this could be really cool. this allows you to get off sacrifices if you need. This is a free sacrifice, mind you, only at the beginning of your upkeep. So there's that downside that you have to hope that your creatures live until your upkeep. That's one thing to think about. But what's nice is that you are hurting people that have a lot of creatures. In the sense of if they have a token deck, and I don't know, like, let's just say they have, even if they had like only 10 creatures out, they have to at that point decide, do they want to lose 10 life and keep all their creatures, or are they going to go ahead and just be like, okay, I'll get rid of 5 of my tokens? You know, like, that's not a huge deal per se, but it's still a lot in general, and this adds up over time. So I feel like Vile Consumption is really cool for Dimir. Even if you aren't playing a sacrifice deck, I feel like this could be one of those things where you're just like slowly pinging people down. And with Dimir, you could do like super heavy control and just ping them down this way, sort of. And it, you know, I guess you can't always assume that you're gonna have Vile Consumption in your hand or anything like that. But regardless, it just seems really cool in any Dimir deck. I don't know, I just really like this card for some reason. But in a sacrifice deck, this allows you to get that sacrifice off. It hurts your opponents. You're pinging them down. And you know, like, for your deck, you can kind of play around it a little bit better because you're like, okay, do I have something that will help me if I actually sacrifice these creatures? Or, you know, let's say if I have 5 creatures, and then with Kels, you know, if you don't have any cards in your hand, you can sacrifice 4 of your creatures off, pay 4 mana, and then you're going to draw 4 cards. And, you know, that just seems really good for these kind of implementations, something. But regardless, it seems really cool. And I really like this interaction with a Dimir sacrifice deck. This is kind of one of those cards I wanted to show off just because it's so, like, I feel like this isn't known well, and maybe it is. I don't know. But this is what, like, it's cool to find these kind of cards that they're really niche, or they could not really be niche. I mean, I still see this card fitting in a lot of Dimir decks just because of the idea of not having a ton of cards in your deck, or usually not a ton of creatures, I should say, in your deck. And so Vile Consumption won't hurt you as much in general, but you're thwarting your opponents potentially, and giving yourself a sacrifice outlet in case, you know, like, your creature gets locked down or whatever. This gives you different ways to deal with that. So I just really think this card is super cool. Now I guess I should mention that you can't sacrifice another creature using Kel's thing and then make her indestructible and then not go through sacrifice. I don't know why you'd do that anyway, so I just pay the 1 life. But yeah, a lot of cool interactions you could do with the Dimir sacrifice with Vile Consumption, I think. And I guess like, point this out. So let's say if you have Zulaport Cutthroat out, that's one of like the main aristocrat things, and you're able to make tokens through something else. If you have 10 tokens on the field and Vile Consumption, you can just sacrifice them all after the beginning of your upkeep, and then everybody's going to lose 10 life, and you're going to gain 10 life. So yeah. And I mean, there's other things that you can sacrifice off with, but I still like the idea of this hurting everybody, and you can slowly chip away at people. So cool card. In my eyes, at least. My eyes. All right. Let's go ahead and get away from that. I think I've talked enough about Dimir sacrifice decks. Let's go into a random card of the night. We'll probably just do one, unless it's super bad. It's a rare card. Let's see what it does here. So this card is called Dragonstorm. It is a 8 colorless red sorcery. Search your library for a dragon permanent card and put it on the battlefield and shuffle your library. Storm. Oh, I guess that's why Storm's in the name. So if you don't know what Storm does, when you cast a spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. This is actually pretty cool. I see this just working really well for a Izzet deck. And because, you know, blue has generally a lot of cantrips, and one I can think of, and I'm pretty sure it's not banned. Okay, I checked it up. It is not banned, and that is Cataxian Probe. Pretty sure I said that correctly. Cataxian Probe is a Phyrexian blue mana, I should say. And so that means you can pay a blue or 2 life, look at target player's hand, and you get it to draw a card. Generally, I would say this is not a great card in decks, just because, okay, you're paying 2 life, you get to filter through your deck, and you get to draw a card. I mean, you get some information, but it's not like amazing. It's okay. It's not amazing. But if you're doing a Storm deck, I feel like this is a very good card. Because, for instance, Dragonstorm here costs 9 mana. That's a lot of mana. So if you have Cataxian Probe, you're paying 2 life, and you're getting to cast another Dragonstorm basically for 2 life. And so you have an Izzet Dragon deck. It doesn't have to be specifically Izzet. It could, be Izzet plus any kind of, like, you could do 5 color, of course, with this. But having these very cheap cantrips to allow Dragonstorm to do more for you is pretty cool. Now, should you center your whole deck around Dragonstorm and put a whole bunch of cantrips in there? I don't know, probably not. But if you're doing a Dragonstorm deck, wow, I didn't mean to make that pun either. But if you were doing a dragon deck that has storm cards in it, how about that? Then yeah, I guess you could. So yeah, I mean, I like, paying 9 mana to tutor out any dragon and put it on the field. It's all right. Paying 9 mana and tutoring out 3, or let's say 10. Paying 10 mana and tutoring out maybe 3 dragons might be pretty good. I like it. So kind of a neat card. I don't know how viable it is, but in Commander, yeah, whatever. Do it, you. Have fun. But I think it's a good card to leave off on, so I hope you all enjoyed. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.